If you're an author or plan to be one, get excited because this podcast is for you. Book Marketing Mentors is the only podcast dedicated to helping you successfully market and sell your book. If you're ready for empowering conversations with successful marketing mavens, then grab a coffee or tea and listen in to your host, international best-selling author Susan Friedman.
Welcome to Book Marketing Mentors, the weekly podcast where you learn proven strategies, tools, ideas, and tips from the masters. Every week, I introduce you to a marketing master who will share their expertise to help you market and sell more books. Today, my special guest is Ljungberg. She's the founder of Expert Coalition, a place where you become an expert and create your legacy business. Since 2002, she's been a true digital nomad, living and working on a sailboat all over the world, growing her business from a sweet hobby to a small empire. Through her online courses, membership programs, consulting and coaching, she's worked with over 3,000 writers, experts, and entrepreneurs in more than 30 countries. She's a master teacher and coach who's passionate about the personal and professional growth of her clients. A new friend and colleague, all the way from one of the 30,000 islands of Sweden's archipelagos. And what an absolute pleasure it is to welcome you to the show. And thank you for being this week's guest expert and mentor.
Oh, thank you so much, Susan. I love to be here. And I feel very connected to someone working with books.
Yes. Since you work so much with writers, experts, entrepreneurs, wow, and you're traveling all around the world in your sailboat, you're running your business. How do you do that?
It's been really interesting and nothing like I thought it would be when we first started out. I was just going to be there and live on love and happiness, I guess. But I got a little frustrated by only watching touristy stuff. I needed an intellectual challenge. So I started a business 1 year into the trip and started helping people writing their books. Fast forward many years, I then ended up training a lot of people to be literary consultants and do the kind of job that I've been doing. That sort of opened new doors for me that I think we're going to talk about a little more today.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole idea of taking it one step further too, and you've created this certification business, which I envy. I think that is such an incredible way to build on people's message, taking the book to the next stage. Talk to us more about that and which authors and what kind of books would make, for a good certification program?
Well, if you have some kind of expertise, you have your own model or method or skill, one way to leverage that is to actually create a certification program. If you've written a book about this, I'm sure many know that that's giving away a lot of your expertise, but there will still be people who want a chunk of your time. A next step could be having a course for clients who want to learn, using your method and working with you. But I've found so many entrepreneurs, they do all these right things. They do the memberships and the online training and the group programs, and people still want a chunk of their time, or they want to scale up in a bigger way. And that's where the certification program can come in handy, because that's where you actually start teaching your peers, people who are going to working with more of your type of clients. Just adding a couple of people who are certified, it's going to probably 10x your client base.
How do you find the right people who would make a good fit for this?
I'd say, first of all, start looking at your client base. They already know your stuff. They might come back buying more things, getting more services, getting to know your products more and more. They would probably be the very best to start with, because you will need a happy, following base to get the testimonials and to make the program larger in the end. But the people who already have a big interest in your type of expertise, that's the best audience to start with.
So what's interesting there is that I talked to a colleague about the idea of turning my program into a certification, inviting her to consider the idea of possibly running this program herself. She said, but I don't have the same expertise you do. How would you respond to that?
Yes, exactly. That is what you would need to learn in the certification program training. That's filling the gap between what you know and what you teach your clients. I have a little metaphor for that usually makes it clear. Let's say you're a dog trainer. You know exactly how to make a dog jump through loops and roll around and everything. You can teach any dog that. You have a way of communicating with them. But here comes a bunch of people who want to learn the same thing. How are you going to teach them to teach the dogs? You can't tell them the same thing you tell the dogs. You need to fill that gap. And that's a big part of your training. And a certification training can be different lengths, absolutely. But what you want to do inside it is give your students real life challenges so you can actually make sure that they are the right person for the job. They can actually get their certification stamp in the end.
And is this something that once they have it, it's like a license, they would renew it every year? Or are there just like different models for certification?
Absolutely. There's a few different models. One is what you're saying, they get the certification for life. I've got a few of those myself. Things that I've just been doing an online self-study course, never met a teacher, just watched some videos and did tests at the end of them, just passing each part of every model. And at the end, getting my certification, which I can put in my website and say, okay, I am a certified content marketer or something like that. Then you have the next level where you're actually in the program with the teacher, learning their process. That might also be a lifetime. And they go away and do their own thing. They're just adding the certification to their toolkit. Then you might want to ask them to come back every year, every 5 years, you decide to do a recertification because there might be new things happening in your niche that they need to be updated on. So more training and the recertification with that. Or you might even want to take it one step further and say, after you're certified, you are invited into my membership, mastermind, whatever, where we together keep working on this brand. So you're getting a little more involved with the model and not just putting it in your own toolkit as someone who's being certified. You keep working with this brand and with this business, and you get a great big network, people who are doing the same. You can scale even further because you have the best network. Those are a few different models. Some of my clients definitely go for the third, where you get a community in the end.
And I know people like that so much. They love the support. They've got something in common. And as you said, then you can work on building the brand and building their knowledge of the brand. How would we get started actually putting together a certification program?
You would have to first have your model systematized. That's the first thing. Start thinking of what is it I'm going to need to teach to have people comprehend my model. First, get the model down. Then start filling the gap, the dog training thing, to see exactly how you're going to teach the method step by step. And then you're going to need to add the challenges. What do these people need to pass to make sure they know this inside out? And then you need to add the legal stuff, because you're teaching your most valuable things here, your expertise. You don't want people running away with that and using it the wrong way or stealing it from you. The legal part's important. when I'm working with lawyers in the US and Canada now, they're very particular with that you have to be the one yourself who makes up the rules. And then your legal advisor can come in and say, okay, you need to change this and that to make this hold in court. But I would not leave this whole process to a lawyer and have them write the papers up. Templates, yes, but you're the decision maker here. And I think that's a great thing. And then, of course, you also need to look at how are you going to maintain your certification. So the things we talk about, are they going to recertify? What's the cost for that going to be? Is there something else that needs to be included? Are they going to be in a membership, a community? How are you going to manage that community? Will you have your own community manager? Are you going to do this? And then you also have to start thinking of what is going to happen with your position after you've certified people. Are you still going to be doing that same expert job that's been your signature? Or will you be stepping up and running the brand with the certified people as your own little army, your tribe? Or are you going to maybe in the end say, okay, I've leveraged this. I've done everything I can. I now have people who are actually even better than I ever was because they've learned together. So we have a bigger knowledge together now, and I can step off and do something totally different. New doors will open. That's a fun part too. And I like to paint that vision once you start thinking of certification. Are you prepared to sort of lose your identity? Or do you want to think about it like gaining something totally new?
Wow, a lot of things to think about. And it was interesting because I was thinking about when I worked in the trade show industry that I had a train the trainer program that I took in-house. I wanted to train somebody in the company to do the trade show program that I had been teaching. It was specific, but then I made it specific to that company.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be recommending that, or is your certification, are you talking more in general terms that anyone who has the knowledge, the inkling, would be able to take this program?
I would say, and this is a boring answer, but it depends because we have a few other things that are similar, but not quite alike as certification. The first one is licensing, when you can actually take exactly the program you are teaching and just make some modifications and sell or give that to other people to work with. They're using your material right off. They wouldn't have to be certified for that maybe, but they need to be licensed to use the material. Certification is a bit of a different level because I think it's important that you bring your own expertise also into the mix. How are your coaches, consultants, experts that you're training going to use the certification with their type of clients? Is there any difference between their ideal clients and the ones you've been working with? That could be an interesting mix that actually adds to the brand also.
I would think so. Wow, I'd not thought of it like that.
Yeah.
That, as you say, opens a lot of different doors, makes it more exciting for people, that you're not cloning people, that there are lots of different Anns and Susans out there doing exactly the same thing, but rather Anne is doing this, but adding her expertise to it and taking it one step further. Susan's doing the same.
Mm-hmm.
Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, I think so. And cloning people, I don't like that concept, but actually my course that I have on this is Clone Your Business. But of course, that still gives room for people to add their own things into it. And then the third model that's also a bit confusing at times, people mix things up, is franchising. When I start talking to people about creating a certification program, one of the first questions I get is, how do I make sure it doesn't become franchising? Because there's some different laws around that. That's also one thing we really look carefully. How is your business best suited to scale up? And franchising means definitely taking your business and making a copy of it. Nothing can be changed. I mean, you don't even change the color of chairs in some franchises.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if you think of, a McDonald's or a UPS store, I mean, they've got very strict rules and regulations as to how the shop front looks, and just everything about it has to be exactly the same. And I know that, having worked in the franchise environment for a while, that it can also get very expensive, both for you and for the franchisee. I wasn't even thinking there, but yes, that is definitely a possibility. Let's go back to the whole idea, Anne, of systematizing your model. How would you even go about doing that with your material?
Just start with taking everything together. I would set off maybe a couple of weeks for this, just looking at, do I have course material? How have my clients reacted to this? What are the usual questions that come up? Everything around how you teach a client. If you've written a book, that's a perfect thing to add in this material. Maybe you could even start creating the course out of the chapters from your book and then go deeper.
Yes, and that's actually some of the things that I've talked about with my clients is, yes, how can they take the different chapters and repurpose them? I mean, this is a different way of repurposing your material. And you talk about your online courses, your membership programs, then the certification. So each of those are different ways of repurposing the material. Is that correct?
Yes. If I don't have that method clear, I would make sure to actually methodize it and use that on clients. So I see that it's a process that can be followed, and no huge questions with the clients. They get the results that you both intended. When you have that down and really use it with clients, then you can start thinking about turning it into certification.
Okay. So a certification also doesn't necessarily mean that they have the right to teach this material, correct? Is that a whole different component of the certification?
That could be a licensing thing. And I have a great example of this. I have a client who has a course, very successful, and he's always teaching this course live. Even if it's all online now, he's there on Zoom teaching, and it runs several times a year. He came to me and wanted to create a certification. My idea was to start with that. Yes, of course, he needs other people to teach this so he can relax a bit and get more clients. But that was not at all what he wanted. He had realized with this course that, yes, he has a model that definitely works. The people who are super dedicated, they work through his course and reach the results. But then we have people who have a lot of different perspectives and things they need to do with clients, and they just can't do this course in the time frame they intended. He wanted to certify mentors who would go through the course with the client, actually build the framework that they were looking for. So at the end of the course, they would have the result built with web pages and all the technical platforms, everything they needed to reach the specific result. And I thought that was so brilliant. He still now does what he loves. He loves to teach this course, but he can help a whole lot more people to actually finish and to go on then to his next level offer.
And that's a very interesting perspective on it, to teach others to mentor you through the program, because I think one of the big stopping or sticking points with courses is that people don't finish it. They start it with great intentions. And I know that for myself, that you start off all excited about a course and then something comes up and you get sidetracked and you just sort of leave it hanging and never actually complete it. But having mentors to guide you through and to make sure that you complete it is another perspective on getting certified for this. So I love that idea.
Yeah, I think it's so brilliant. And I got to see firsthand the kind of challenges he put his certification students to. This was all happening this year online, and they met a first weekend. And after some training for a couple of days, they had the challenge to, in 3 hours, set up the course that their clients would want to build. They had 3 hours to do all the market research, set up the technical platform, and even sell the course, add some content and sell the course.
Wow.
And everyone who was in the class made it. So that was the first test. Then they had more and more. And at the end, they needed to not work in groups as they did the first time, but the final weekend, they had 48 hours to set it all up alone. They could ask members of their business and so on to help them, but no help from other people in the group. 48 hours, they also needed to sell the final result for $2,000. So they needed to find quite a few clients during these 48 hours. It was intense.
I can imagine. Whoa.
And they graduated. So we're so proud of them.
That proves that it's possible, that if you have people who are able to do all these different things, so then that sort of solidifies the idea, well, this is real and this can be done. This is reality. That's really put people jumping through hoops to get this mentorship certification. People must really want to do it, to go through that. Incredible. And if people wanted to find out more about you, your programs, and how they could go about creating their certification programs, how can they do that?
Well, I have a website, expertcoalition.com. I have a few things coming up. In January, I will have an event around the 15th to 17th, which people are welcome to. I also have a summit a couple of weeks later. And then I have a course starting in February. The event would be interesting for people who know already that, yes, certification would be an interesting way for them to scale. And the summit coming up, the Business Growth Summit, there we will discuss a few different ways to actually grow your business. Certification is one, licensing, franchising, and I have about 20 different ways to grow your business in that summit. So that's going to be super interesting if you're looking for any kind of way to scale, and especially if you have a book already, how can you take that further?
Excellent. And I'll put all that information in the show notes. And so anybody who can attend that, I highly recommend that, because yes, this gets away from just the thought of just selling books, which is my approach, is finding other ways that you can repurpose this material to take your message to a whole new level and really show your expertise in a way that needs to be shown, because you have it, and let's flaunt it as much as you can.
I just realized, forget about the event, because that's going to have happened already when you hear this, but there is another one coming up in March.
Perfect.
So we'll have the links for that.
We'll have all the links for all of those. That'll be excellent. And if you were to leave our listeners with a golden nugget, what would that be?
I think the most important is what I was touching on a little. Start thinking about not only how your business can scale and leverage, but how you yourself can leverage. What's your next big step in life that a certification program can be the stepping stone for?
Wonderful. You have given us so much food for thought and sharing your wisdom. I really appreciate it. And listeners, wow, you've been treated today to a very different perspective on how you can use your book, how you can leverage your expertise. I hope you're going to listen to this a few more times so you can really take it all in. Thank you, Anne. And thank you all for taking time out of your precious day to listen to this interview. And I sincerely hope that it sparked some ideas you can use to sell more books. Here's wishing you much book marketing success.
The time is now to take action and finally build your book-selling empire. And the great news is that Susan is here to help you. Visit bookmarketingmentors.com and sign up for a free 15-minute book marketing strategy session with Susan. She'll help you discover your first steps to marketing and selling your book. Only those who take action are rewarded, so visit bookmarketingmentors.com, and we'll see you again next week.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.